Good evening. I'm Alvara. I'm really happy you're here tonight. I hope today wasn't too overwhelming for you. Maybe you're already lying in bed. Maybe you've just finished a long day. Or maybe you simply wanted a quiet voice to keep you company for a little while. Tonight, I'd like to tell you about something that happened this morning. I woke up a little earlier than usual today. Not because my alarm rang, actually. I woke up before it. The room was still dim, and for a few seconds I just stayed where I was, listening. It was quiet. I could hear a bird somewhere outside. A car passed slowly beneath my apartment window. Then everything became still again. Those are my favorite kinds of mornings, the ones that don't ask anything from you. I reached over to my nightstand and looked at the time. 6:23. Too early to get ready, too late to fall asleep again. So I got out of bed. The wooden floor was colder than I expected. I always forget that. Every single morning, I walked into the kitchen and filled the kettle. While I waited for the water to boil, I opened the window just a little. The air smelled different today. Cooler, cleaner. It must have rained sometime during the night. The rooftops across the street still look slightly wet. I watched a woman walking her dog. The dog stopped every few steps to sniff something invisible. The woman didn't seem impatient. She simply waited. For some reason, I liked seeing that. Maybe we're all happier when nobody is rushing us. I made myself a cup of tea instead of coffee. I don't really know why. Perhaps I just wanted something warm while the morning was still waking up. I stood by the window for a few minutes, not thinking about anything in particular. Just watching the city slowly come alive. One light turned on, then another. Someone opened a balcony door. A cyclist rode past with a backpack much bigger than he was. The bakery on the corner had already opened. I couldn't see inside, but I knew exactly what it smelled like. Fresh bread, butter, coffee. Every morning the whole street carries that smell for a few minutes. Sometimes I wonder if people who work there ever notice it anymore, or if they're already so used to it that it disappears. It's funny how our minds stop noticing the things we see every day. Maybe that's why traveling feels so exciting. Everything feels new again. Even something as ordinary as a park bench. When I finally got dressed, I realized I still had plenty of time before work. Normally, I'd head straight to the station. But this morning felt different. Not special. Just slower. So I decided to leave home a little earlier and stop by the small coffee shop near the station. It's not a famous place. It's actually quite easy to miss. The sign above the door has faded a little over the years. One of the chairs outside is slightly uneven, and the menu hasn't changed since I moved into this neighborhood. Some people might call it old. I think it feels familiar. The woman behind the counter always smiles before saying good morning. Not because she has to. It just seems to be who she is. There are fresh flowers on the counter every day. They're never arranged perfectly. Sometimes one flower leans to the side. Sometimes the leaves stick out in odd directions. I like that. It reminds me that not everything beautiful has to be perfect. When it was my turn, I ordered my usual latte. The woman smiled and said, "The usual?" I laughed a little. I guess I've become predictable. She handed me the receipt with a grin. I think predictable can be comforting. I carried the small paper receipt in one hand while waiting for my coffee. The espresso machine hummed softly behind the counter. Someone quietly turned the page of a newspaper outside the window. People continued walking toward the station. Some looked sleepy. Some looked busy. Everyone seemed to be heading somewhere. I found myself wondering if mornings always look like this, or if I had simply never slowed down enough to notice. Just then, the cafe door opened, and a cool breeze slipped inside with someone who had just walked in. The little bell above the door rang once, not loudly, just enough for everyone inside to glance up for a second before returning to whatever they were doing. I looked down at the receipt in my hand. There was no reason to turn around. I was only waiting for my coffee, but somehow I did. It was him, the man from the station yesterday. He was wearing the same dark navy coat. This time there wasn't a paper cup in his hands, just a folded umbrella. Tiny drops of rain were still clinging to the fabric. For a second, I wondered if he recognized me too. Then our eyes met, and almost immediately, he smiled. It wasn't the kind of smile people give because they're being polite. It felt more like, "Oh, it's you again." I smiled back before I even realized I was doing it. It lasted only a moment. Then we both looked away. No words, no awkwardness. Just two people quietly sharing the same morning. The cafe wasn't very big. There were only 6 small tables. An old wooden shelf filled with coffee beans lined one wall, and a tiny radio behind the counter was playing soft jazz at such a low volume that it almost blended into the sound of steaming milk. The woman behind the counter looked at him and smiled. "The usual?" He nodded. "Please." His voice was calm, lower than I expected. Not loud enough for the whole cafe to hear, just enough. It made me wonder how many mornings he'd spent here. Enough for someone to remember his order. Maybe he'd been coming here for years. Maybe we had crossed paths before without noticing. That thought stayed with me for a while. How many times had we unknowingly shared the same places, the same train, the same street, the same cafe, without ever looking up? My latte for Alvara. The barista placed my cup gently on the counter. The smell of fresh coffee drifted through the room. I wrapped both hands around the warm paper cup. I like doing that before taking the first sip. It always feels like the morning is finally beginning. As I turned toward the door, I noticed he had stepped aside to let an elderly man enter first. It was such a small gesture. Most people probably wouldn't even notice it. The elderly man smiled. "So kind of you." He simply nodded. "No problem." Then he waited for the man to walk inside before ordering his own coffee. I don't know why, but somehow that tiny moment stayed with me longer than the smile we had exchanged. Sometimes you learn more about someone from the things they do when they think nobody is watching. I pushed open the cafe door. The air outside was cool against my face. A few drops of water still clung to the leaves of the small flowers beside the entrance. They caught the morning light in a way that made them look almost silver. I stood there for a moment before taking my first sip. It was hotter than I expected. I laughed quietly to myself. I always forget to wait. No matter how many times it happens, people continued walking toward the station. Some carried umbrellas. Others held coffee cups just like mine. For a moment, everyone looked like they belonged to the same quiet routine. Different lives, different destinations. The same morning, I started walking toward the station at my usual pace. Not too fast, not too slow. I could hear footsteps behind me. Steady, unhurried, not close enough to feel uncomfortable. Just close enough that they blended with the sound of my own. Without turning around, I had a feeling I already knew who it was. The sidewalk was still damp from the rain. Every few steps, the morning sun caught a small puddle, turning it into a tiny mirror. I tried not to step on them. Not because I was afraid of getting my shoes wet. I just like seeing the sky reflected on the ground. It's strange how beautiful ordinary things become when you're not in a hurry. The footsteps behind me stayed at the same distance. Never closer, never farther away. Almost as if we had found the same rhythm without trying. When the traffic light turned red, I stopped with a few other people. A cyclist rolled to a stop beside us. Someone yawned. A woman adjusted the scarf around her neck. The city was awake now, but it still felt gentle. I took another sip of my coffee. This time I remembered to let it cool first. It tasted much better. When the light turned green, everyone started walking again. As I stepped onto the other side of the street, I heard a voice behind me. I think we keep choosing the same mornings. I turned around. It was him. He was holding his coffee with one hand and the folded umbrella with the other. For a second, I wasn't sure if he was talking to me. Then he smiled. "The station yesterday," he said softly. "And now the cafe." I couldn't help smiling. I was thinking the same thing. There was a short silence. Not the uncomfortable kind. Just the kind that doesn't need to be filled. He looked toward the station ahead of us. I guess Stockholm isn't as big as people think. I laughed. Or maybe we both have very predictable routines. He nodded. That's probably true. For a moment, we simply continued walking, side by side. Not close enough to feel like friends. Not distant enough to feel like strangers. I noticed he walked at almost the same pace as I did. Neither of us seemed to enjoy rushing. A small breeze carried the scent of wet trees from the park nearby. The leaves were moving softly above us. It made the whole street feel quieter. "I'm Daniel." He said it so naturally that it almost caught me by surprise. No hesitation, no awkwardness. Just a simple introduction. I looked at him for a second before answering. "I'm Alvara. It's nice to finally know your name." I smiled. I was just thinking the same thing. We both laughed, not loudly, just enough to make the silence between us feel lighter. As we reached the entrance to the station, people began moving in different directions. Some hurried toward platform 2, others disappeared down the stairs. The familiar sound of an arriving train echoed through the building. Daniel glanced at the departure board. Looks like we're taking different trains today. I looked up as well. He was right. His platform was on the other side. For some reason, I felt a tiny bit disappointed. It surprised me. We had spoken for less than 5 minutes. I barely knew anything about him. And yet, it already felt nice knowing that somewhere in this busy city, there was one familiar face I might see again tomorrow morning. Daniel lifted his coffee, slightly, with a smile. Have a good day, Alvara. You too. He gave a small wave before walking toward the opposite platform. I watched him disappear into the crowd. It didn't feel dramatic. It didn't feel like something out of a movie. It simply felt pleasant. The kind of moment that quietly stays with you while the rest of the day goes on. I stood there for another second before looking down at my own coffee. It was still warm. And somehow, so was my morning. I stood there for another moment before walking toward my platform. The train arrived almost immediately. The doors opened with the familiar sound I hear almost every morning. People stepped inside without saying much. Some found a seat. Others stood quietly near the doors, holding warm cups of coffee just like mine. I sat by the window again. I always choose the window if I can. Not because the view changes very much, but because it gives my thoughts somewhere to go. As the train began to move, I looked outside. The coffee shop slowly disappeared behind the buildings. The station became smaller. Then it was gone. I rested my forehead lightly against the cool glass. It was funny. Yesterday, I didn't even know that man existed. Today, I knew his name. Daniel. Such a simple thing. A name. And yet it somehow made him feel a little less like a stranger. The rest of my morning passed the way most mornings do. I arrived at work. I greeted the receptionist. Made another cup of coffee even though I had already finished one. Answered emails. Joined a meeting. Looked at the clock more times than I probably needed to. Nothing unusual happened. If someone had asked me how my day was, I probably would have answered, it was good. And that would have been true. But there was one small difference. Every now and then, my mind wandered back to that short walk from the cafe to the station. Not because something extraordinary had happened. Actually, almost nothing had happened. We talked for only a few minutes. We didn't exchange phone numbers. We didn't make plans. We didn't promise to meet again. We simply happened to begin the same morning at the same place. Maybe that's why it stayed with me. There was no pressure, no expectations. Just a quiet conversation between two people who happened to be walking in the same direction. Sometimes I think we spend too much time waiting for big moments. The perfect trip, the perfect job, the perfect relationship, the perfect day. And while we're waiting, Life quietly keeps happening around us. A warm cup of coffee, a stranger holding the door open, the smell of fresh bread drifting through the street, the sound of birds before the city becomes busy. Little things, easy to miss. But somehow, they're often the parts I remember the longest. After work, I decided to walk home instead of taking the train. The rain had completely stopped. The sidewalks were almost dry now. A few children were playing in a small park near my apartment. Someone was practicing the violin with their window open. I couldn't see who it was, only the music floating gently into the evening air. I smiled without realizing it. Today hadn't changed my life. It hadn't answered any big questions. It hadn't become the beginning of some unbelievable story. It was simply a good day, and maybe that's enough. Maybe not every memory has to be extraordinary. Maybe the best days are the ones that quietly remind us to pay attention. Before I went upstairs, I stopped at the little flower stand near my building. There were white daisies in a small bucket by the entrance. They weren't the biggest flowers or the most colorful, but they looked fresh, simple, honest. I bought a small bundle and placed them in an old glass jar when I got home. The apartment felt a little brighter. It's amazing what small things can do. A flower, a smile, a familiar voice, a warm drink. Sometimes they carry us through an entire day. And tonight, before we say goodnight, I'd like to ask you something. Has someone ever made your day better without even realizing they did? Maybe it was a stranger. Maybe a cashier. Maybe someone you passed on the street. Or maybe someone you only spoke to for a few minutes. I'd love to know. Thank you for letting me spend this quiet evening with you. I hope today's story helped your thoughts slow down, even just a little. Sleep well, and remember, tomorrow is another ordinary day. Sometimes, ordinary days become the ones we treasure the most. Good night.